And so that was a real turning point for me, that I had to really decide, do I continue in this corporate path, which on paper looked very promising, stock options and bonuses and promotions and fancy titles and all of those bells and whistles. But I hated my life, and I hated going into the cubicle, and I hated having to fill out more forms. And so I kind of reflected about what I wanted to do. And I remembered when I was university how I said I didn't want to be stuck at a desk filling out forms. And I remembered all the times in my childhood when I had created little businesses and little sales projects and little marketing things. And so I realized that, if I'm going to start a business, now is the time. So I started that from scratch, which is, challenging. Yeah. Oh, well, they didn't have this, and they didn't answer this question. They wouldn't tell me that, and they would. It's like, wow, what's out there. So it's an investment. You're investing in the business. You're going to grow it. The whole idea is that you're building equity, and that whatever your end game is, whether it's the end of your 5-year franchise agreement or at a time point after that, that you sell your business and you cash out. So it's important that you feel comfortable and trust the people that you're partnering with while you're building equity in your business. I think what's interesting is that, because there's the corporate owned unit, and that suggestions from the team there, either from the staff or the supervisors or the service manager, might go, oh, we want to do, or what about doing XYZ, because it meets their immediate needs. And then my strategic viewpoint is, well, yeah, that meets that particular need, but that can't be duplicated outside of Ottawa, or that can't be, so it's always thinking about how to create a system that's going to, with enough wiggle room and moving parts to fit, the franchise in Milton or the franchise in Toronto, or a new franchise that we might be opening in Guelph or Kitchener or wherever. So it's, I think that's the interesting part, is just sort of balancing out those immediate needs of what those, what's on the ground, sort of nitty gritty, versus an overall strategic system. Mrs. Fields cookies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I read the
Classic.
story of Mrs. Fields cookies,
right.
And I thought that was really inspiring. It's just that idea that, it's a cookie. You go into the grocery store,
True.
and there's an aisle full of cookies. And you go, well, there was no online then, but,
right.
You go to a bookstore, and there'll be books full of recipes for cookies. You wouldn't think there was room for a new brand of cookie. And she did it. Because of the branding, because of the unique aspect, because of the service, because of the experience that she was providing. It was a whole thing. And I saw in that inspiration for how you can take something that already exists, but make it your own and make it unique and appeal to people in a way and fill a need that exists. I think it's asking questions. And if you feel like you've asked enough questions, find more questions to ask. Because there's so much resource and inspiration out there. And, I went through that with franchising, and I would cold call people and ask questions. But then I realized later the answers they gave me was like totally not accurate and not helpful. And almost to the point of, were they trying to mislead me? So, keep asking questions, look for expertise, look for free expertise. Sometimes when you're, there's lots of paid advisors and professionals out there, but they're not necessarily have your own best interests at heart, or they don't necessarily are tuned into your own vision for the business that you're trying to create. So that's where, reaching out, whether it's on LinkedIn now or inviting people for lunch. I'll buy you lunch, I'll buy you coffee. Can I pick your brain and ask you about different things? Just reaching out and getting as much expertise and input and other people's perspective as possible to help influence you creating your own vision for your business.
agree. I really think that, I got to be careful. I tend to get on a soapbox when it comes to this stuff, but I'm just a big believer in it, that you've got to serve the community that's serving you.
Absolutely.
And I think it's an obligation, quite frankly, that, and you know what, it doesn't have to be monetary. I understand in some of our listeners, maybe you're just starting up, but don't wait 5 years. If you can do anything early on, even just volunteering your time or your staff's time, it doesn't have to be, I think people get hung up, unfortunately, on, oh, geez, if I'm not donating this big giant check, I'm really not doing, you
don't have to do the big sponsorships. You don't
Right.
have to put your name on the side of a big building or anything. It can just be little grassroots ways of how to create more awareness within your client base, within your employee base, of a certain cause that resonates with you.
Yeah, agreed.